Have you ever faced a tough sales objection and felt like you really just hit a wall in the sales process? Well, I want you to imagine turning every single no into a yes and mastering the art of negotiation in sales, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's video. And the reality is most sales reps absolutely dread objection handling and dealing with objections day to day in their role. They view them as the end of a conversation. But what if I told you that objections are actually opportunities in disguise? They are your golden ticket to better understanding your prospects and then sealing the deal. So let's take a look at the two main objections that you're going to face in your B2B sales role, and then how to handle the 5 most common sales objections that you're bound to face that you've probably seen a million times over. So if you're ready to turn those no's into yeses, let's get started. Navigating objections in sales is like playing a strategic game of chess. You've got 2 main pathways to handle these objections, and picking the right one can turn any game into your favor. So let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where you've cleverly dodged a question that you didn't want to answer? Well, that's kind of how we're going to approach the first way to deal with an objection. But we're going to do it in an ethical and productive manner. So if an objection pops up, and it's something minor, and you know that the buyer really doesn't care about it, or maybe it's a slight misunderstanding, all you've got to do is say, okay, let's circle back to that in a minute. And then smoothly carry on the sales process, carry on the sales conversation. And more often than not, as you go through the rest of the sales conversation, the sales process, as you dive deeper into the benefits, the features of your product, the bigger, brighter, bolder reality that you're moving your buyer towards, your prospect is going to forget that initial hesitation and that initial random objection they threw at you, because they've now got more information about the product, the service. They now begin to see the bigger picture. Their objection dissolves as their understanding grows. But what if the objection is more substantial? That's when you need to switch to the second pathway, and you need to tackle this head on. Okay, so let's say the prospect goes, I just don't have the budget for this project. So instead of sidestepping this objection, it's important to deal with it. You need to dive a little bit deeper, like, okay, well, do you know what the price is? Because maybe the buyer's made an assumption about the price, the service, the offering. They probably don't know all the ins and outs things at the moment that they throw that objection out there, especially when you're cold calling or doing cold outreach or your initial diagnosis call. And asking a follow-up question opens up a dialogue. It allows you to explain the value of the service and balance out the perspective on cost versus benefits that the buyer is going to receive. And if you want to get into the step-by-step process of handling objections in more detail, grab the free book, Selling Made Simple. There's a whole chapter on objection handling here. You can grab the book over absolutely free over at salesman.com. So now that you've got a bit of a grip on handling objections through these 2 main pathways, let's take a look at the 5 most common objections that you are going to face day to day and how to deal with those specifically. If you're facing the now just isn't a good time objection, well, it can feel like a real speed bump on your sales road trip. But it's not a dead end. It's just a signal to slow down and to start to navigate your conversation a little bit more carefully. This objection usually means one of 2 things. Either the prospect doesn't see the value in what you're offering, and which is your fault. You haven't communicated that effectively to the buyer. Or you might just not be a good fit to work with that person in that specific moment of time. So how do you solve this puzzle? Well, we want to take a step back. We want to use a bit of empathy here. We want to assert the value that we believe we can give to the buyer from our offering. And we perhaps want to go a step deeper and ask the question, what would happen if you didn't solve this problem that we're talking about on this call? What we're doing here is diving into the opportunity cost of taking no action. Because remember, to book a meeting and get a deal done, you need to get the right message in front of the right person at the right time. You're in total control of your message. You're in pretty much control, as long as they'll meet with you, as to the right person to get in front of them. Timing is always more difficult. There's a little bit of luck involved in that. But you can influence the person's opinion on whether this is the right moment by, again, diving into the opportunity costs of staying in the status quo, of not taking action, of being stuck in the mud. The next objection that you're going to hear all of the time is that you're just too expensive. And here it's very important to understand it's not really about the price tag. It's about the value or the lack of value, or even the perceived lack of value that your prospect sees from your offering. So how do you deal with this? I like to tackle this absolutely head on when I'm selling our Salesman.com Academy training to corporates, to large teams, even to small business owners as well. And I will rebut this objection with, okay, well, if I can show you a strong ROI that you could expect from working with us, would it make sense to continue this conversation? So here, I'm not defending the price. The price is the price. If anyone who's watching this video who's worked with me over the years will know that there is no discount over at salesman.com. You can sign up a team of 5,000 people. I wouldn't be able to handle that many people to train them, but let's say in an ideal world, we could handle that many people, the price would still be the price. So we're not defending price here at all. What we're doing is highlighting the undeniable value and the return on the investment that the buyer is going to get from us. Neeraj Kapoor talked about this on a recent episode of the Salesman podcast.
But a lot of people will say, oh, my budget's limited at the very beginning. And if that's the case, it means you simply haven't provided enough value to that person, or you haven't asked the right questions and really found out what their concerns are. If they mention it after, say, 20 to 25 minute meeting, either face-to-face or over Zoom, and all of a sudden budget is limited, then it means there's a chance the budget is there, but maybe there's something else you haven't uncovered.
And I'm sure you've been in this situation yourself. You want something, you see the price, you get what's called sticker shocked, and then 3 months later you end up owning the thing or going on that trip or buying that service, whatever it is. And after the fact, you can justify whether the investment was worth it or not. And that's exactly the same process that your buyers are going through as well. They go, holy heck, I didn't realize it was going to be that much. And all you've got to do is bring them back onto the logical thought process of spend X, generate Y. And if that makes sense and you're nodding along to this video, stay tuned, because up next we're going to cover probably the most common sales objection, where the buyer is stuck in the status quo and they feel like their current solutions are already good enough. Okay, so this objection of, I already have another supplier, we're already sorted on this, we don't need to make any changes, we're happy with how things work. It's like finding out that your favorite fast food place has a rival. Your first thought probably is, it couldn't get any better, I don't need to try it. And with this objection, the buyer is communicating to you that they are comfortable, but they're not necessarily delighted with their current solution. So what do we need to do to shake them out of this complacency? Well, we need to highlight the gap between decent and excellent. We can ask a question like, are you thrilled with the current supplier, how they're performing for you right now? And it's very, very unlikely that the buyer's going to turn around and say, I'm absolutely thrilled about that software solution, or I'm thrilled about the sales training that we are currently getting from our current provider. Very few businesses thrill their customers. And so this sets up the conversation for how could we make things better? And don't think of this as a way to manipulate the buyer or massively influence here. All we're trying to do is just poke a few holes. It's about making them reassess the levels of satisfaction and just become open. We don't need to close them on the spot there, just get them open to a potentially superior alternative. So sales objection number 4 is when the buyer turns around to you and says, especially on a cold call, just email me some information. This is the business equivalent of chatting up a hot girl at a bar and she says, maybe we should just be friends. It's not outright rejection, but it's not a green light to move this relationship forward either. They're not absolutely dismissing you, but they don't really give a shit. They don't see the value that you offer just quite yet. This is your cue to start to try and spark their interest. And how I deal with this when it comes up in my sales calls is I'll go, okay, no worries. Can I ask a quick few questions so that I can make sure that I send the correct information over? And this objection handling technique does 2 things. First off, it shows that you are actually committed to providing a personalized service to the buyer. When you say, yeah, great, I'll send over some information, the buyer knows that you don't give a shit. They're never going to respond to it, and it just becomes a black hole of a potential opportunity. And second, and more importantly, it keeps the conversation going. It gives you a foot in the door to communicate, to demonstrate the value, to ask a few good questions. And if you ask your questions in a succinct way, the value-adding questions that make your buyer go, I've never really thought about that before. That then kiboshes the objection. You don't need to come back to it. You can just carry on the conversation moving forward. Because I'm sure you've been brushed off with an objection like this in the past. And imagine turning this around by genuinely asking a few questions and being helpful. So let's take a look at one of the most devastating objections that you can face in B2B sales. An objection that you shouldn't really ever come across if you qualify your buyers effectively. It is the objection of, I need to ask my boss. And this can feel like a real setback, but it's actually a valuable cue to you as a salesperson that, well, you've screwed up. You're not speaking to the actual decision maker. And this is a common scenario in sales. And yeah, it's our fault for not navigating to the right person at the beginning of the process. And the only solution here, and you might feel like this is a little bit ballsy, but once you've done it a few times, you'll find that this is absolutely an appropriate question to ask. You want to flip the script. I do it by saying, okay, great. Well, why don't we jump on a quick call with both the boss and yourself to run through this? And 9 times out of 10, the prospect is going to go, yeah, that kind of does make sense. You don't need to justify anything. Just repeat that sentence as I said it there. So you want to say it casually. It's not, oh, God damn it, you've suckered me into spending 3 weeks engaging with you and you're not the actual decision maker. Woe on me for not doing my qualification at the top of the process effectively. So you just go, okay, no worries. And you talk in this kind of tonality, no worries. Would it make sense if you, the boss, and you jump on a quick call? There might be a few things that we can run through. I might be able to add a bit of value to the conversation. And then you just got to shut up and sit in that little bit of silence, allow that little bit of tension to be built, and allow the buyer to go, yeah, it probably would make sense for you to speak with the actual decision maker for this big, important project that we're working on. My man Alex Berman made this clear on a recent Salesman podcast episode.
Right? If you're selling something they need and it's the right person and it's the right type of company, they'd be stupid not to respond to you. So it's like, if you can't communicate that as a business, that's on you. And I wouldn't keep sending that wrong message to them 100 times.
So there we go. If you found value in these tips for mastering sales objections, why not dive a little bit deeper? Why not click the video that's on the screen right now and continue making selling simple?